You ever stop and think about what's really down there, right under your feet? It's so much more than just a dusty old space for storage. Turns out, it's a hidden world that shapes our lives in some pretty surprising ways. Yeah, the foundation of your home, it's not just some dark corner for spiders. It tells a whole story about geography, about economics, and even about the future of our cities. It's this hidden world that kind of shapes everything we see above it.
Okay, so let's get right into it. We gotta start with the basics. What are we even talking about here? Basement? Crawl space? What's the deal?
So a crawl space, the name pretty much says it all, right? It's this tight spot, just tall enough for someone to, well, crawl through. It's really there to give access to all the important stuff like your plumbing and wiring without having to do a massive excavation.
Okay, so when you boil it all down, the big difference here is height and what you can do with the space. A crawl space is basically a utility closet under your house. But a basement, with its full height ceiling, that's potential living space. And, as you'd guess, that also means it's a whole lot more expensive and complicated to build.
But here's where it gets really fascinating. Whether your house has a basement or a crawl space, it often has less to do with what you want and way more to do with where you happen to live. It's kind of like a geographic lottery. So why is it that in the southern U.S., basements are pretty much a no-go? Well, it comes down to three main things. First, you've got places like Florida with really damp soil and high water tables. A basement there would basically become an indoor swimming pool you never wanted. Second, the ground just doesn't freeze that deep, so you don't need to dig down far. And third, a lot of the South is sitting on this super hard limestone bedrock that's an absolute nightmare to dig through.
But if you head up north, oh man, the whole game changes. The frost line is way deeper, sometimes several feet down. That means builders have to dig that far anyway just to keep the pipes from freezing solid in the winter. And at that point, you're thinking, well, we're already down here, might as well go a little deeper and make a whole basement. The climate pretty much forces your hand.
Okay, so we've covered the why of geography. Now let's talk about the how of money. As our cities get more crowded and way more expensive, that dark, forgotten boiler room under a building, it's suddenly becoming prime real estate. And this quote, it just nails the mindset in a big city. When every single square foot costs an absolute fortune, developers are starting to look down, trying to unlock all that hidden value and turn what was dead space into a serious asset. But hold on. You can't just throw a futon down there and call it an apartment. To turn a basement into a legal, livable space, you've got to follow some really strict safety rules. You absolutely need a second way out, an egress, for fires. You need real ventilation, not just a tiny window. The ceiling has to be a certain height. And of course, you need the whole suite of smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. Safety is everything. And what are people actually doing with all this new space? Oh, the sky's the limit. We're talking gyms, secure bike rooms, party rooms for kids, awesome home theaters, you name it. These aren't just little upgrades. They can totally change how desirable a whole building is. And that brings us to the big one, the really shocking part of all this, the hidden price tag for digging deep, and how it is secretly, powerfully shaping the world right above our heads. We're even starting to see these crazy iceberg homes pop up, where the part of the house that's underground is actually bigger than what you see on the street. But this wild trend points to a way more common and ridiculously expensive problem that affects almost all of us: parking. Okay, just look at this number, $34,000. According to the urban planning expert Donald Shoup, that is the average cost to build one single underground parking spot in the United States. And get this, that's just the construction. It doesn't even include the cost of the land itself. So when a city forces developers to build parking, the costs just explode. For a new shopping center in a place like LA, the parking requirement can almost double the entire construction cost. That is a staggering expense that, you guessed it, gets passed right on to us through higher prices and higher rents. And here's the kicker, the real-world consequence. Check this out. In this actual case, the law said the developer could build 8 apartments, but because they had to build all the mandated parking spots, they could only fit 7. That's right. The need to store cars literally cut the amount of housing for people by 13%. Just let that sink in for a second. So the next time you walk into a building, just take a second and think about that unseen world down below. From the simple geology of a frost line to the mind-boggling economics of a single parking space, what's happening beneath our feet has this profound and often totally invisible impact on our lives. It makes you wonder, right? If the price for this space is so high, what other hidden costs are out there?
shaping our world in ways we don't even see.